Siona God, hello all. Good afternoon, and Wado, thank you for watching. This is day 13 of reading Lone Wolf Alpha Squad Copy Over by James Rink, and this is his story. In 1967, I'm going to repeat a couple of sentences because I had to leave like in another, I think I had to cut this one short. Let me see. Well, anyway, you just follow along. In 1967, Lord Rothschild reported that cloning, oh yeah, I did, because I was like, oh my gosh, because it's a Rothschild, right? Reported that cloning was a near possibility and suggested that a commission should be established to oversee the consequences. He called it the Commission for Genetic Control. In the 1970s, the Khazarian Zionist Bolsheviks, the KGB, were kicked out of the Soviet Union and resettled in the United States. After their takeover of the intelligence organizations, their blueprint of the New World Order Global Plan 2000 was now in full gear, spearheaded by Henry Kissinger, Kissinger. Isn't that an actor or something? I don't know who that sounds familiar. David Rockefeller, oh my God, and George Bush Sr. They planned to reduce the world population to 500 million by 1981 through nuclear war, which would usher in a worldwide fiefdom controlled by them, of course. Fiefdom, F-I-E-F-D-O-M. By the spring of 1979, the KZBs were about to initiate a Bolshevik-style revolution in the United States, similar to what happened to Russia in 1917, after which the CIA would start a war in the Middle East, resulting in a nuclear first strike against Russia. The only problem was the Soviets were well aware of these plans and counterstriked using Tesla technology. They would park their Cosmos spheres, COSMOSPHERES, all over the east and west coast of the U.S. These were Russian-built anti-gravity platforms, which contained space-based electrogravitic weapons equipped with charged particle beams. The Concorde supersonic jet was often blamed for sonic booms when it was actually these cosmospheres, helping to protect the planet from satanic Kabbalists. What? By 1975, the Russians got hold of an entirely new technology to fight the KZBs. With help from the Greys, they managed to crack the genome code and create the first human duplicate in a laboratory setting. These beings are known as robotoids, R-O-B-O-T-O-I-D-S. In the fall of 1978, the Russians replaced President Carter with a robotoid. What? At that point, the KZB plans for the New World Order were stopped dead in its tracks. At first, robotoids took 3 years to produce, but today the process only takes a few hours. All they need is one cell from the original. Then it undergoes recombinant, recombinant DNA techniques similar to those involving bacteria. The duplicate is grown in underground vats containing a solution of pituitrin hormone, which speeds up the aging process. This method was developed by studying progeria disease, which causes premature aging in young children. Once grown to desired age, computers would then insert holographic memories. Memories are inserted using ultrasonic cerebral holograms. These are inaudible high-frequency sound waves, which make a three-dimensional copy of a person's memory. This duplication can be done with or without the person's knowledge. Once the clone has been tested, the original entity is then terminated and replaced with a duplicate. The Greys gave humanity this technology in hopes it could be used in positive ways, such as creating new body parts for amputees. Right? As well as a humane food source. Instead, it was used for evil. Of course, the public was never told of these marvelous creatures because technology is only released to the masses when it serves the goals of the elite. For example, the release of the computer was not supposed to occur, but it did anyway due to the greed and profit potential. Okay, that tracks. The only way cloning could be pulled off without public knowledge is strict control of the media. Most of the media is owned by the cabal via aggregate local, state, and federal level pension funds in such a way that would make even Lenin chuckle. If the media was to tell you the truth, the board of directors would lose their jobs, or worse. On top of that, the flow of information is heavily controlled by Secret Service and the Pentagon, who only issue credentials to approved media personnel at press conferences and important interviews of public officials. If they told the truth, they too would be out of a job. A totally controlled media didn't stop all leaks of information. some truth would leak out. That makes me wonder about like people like Barbara Walters and stuff. Like I used to literally watch them and be glued to the TV as a kid because they did investigative reporting that I was just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, and you never knew their own like personal beliefs and stuff. They stayed like really like neutral, which I like. I commended that. It's kind of like the Dolly Parton of reporters, you know? I'm not saying she was. I'm talking about investigative reporters, like true investigative reporters, or like Dolly Parton reporters, you know? Let me see. A totally controlled media did not stop all leaks of information. Some truth would leak out, which was either ignored or branded into conspiracy theory, thanks to a few whistleblowers like Dr. Peter David Beter. No, that can't be Peter Beter. Man, that must have been tough. Who served as general, I was about to laugh, that's really low frequency, general counsel for the Export-Import Bank of Washington. We have a record of how truly advanced these cloning projects have become. In his audio reports, he reveals that not only were the Soviets busy with their cloning process, so too were the Rothschilds and the KGBs, who soon developed their own clone. The Rothschild method was different than the Russian method. They would use extracted bovine cattle hormones, glands and tissues of the cattle as raw material, then make genetic alterations in the bovine DNA to simulate a person who was being copied. These creatures are known as synthetics. Makes me wonder if the cattle mutilations that they claimed were off-world people doing it, it wasn't. It was our own government doing it. I wonder if they took those tissue samples to then like replicate or whatever it was in their stuff for like nefarious research, and then also to create the copies. This is how the Men in Black are created. Oh, well, thank you for answering that. For those who don't know, the MIB is used by the cabal in MI-labs to harass contactees or anyone else who knows too much about the alien presence. In June 1980, the Supreme Court ruled that life forms created by man can be patented. By the early 90s, there were over 100 patents pending on new life forms. I have no idea what these numbers are today, perhaps in the millions. I wonder if any has... Okay, this is how it reads. I wonder if any has anyone tried to look up. Tried? Okay. I wonder if any has anyone tried look up patents on the Men in Black. Left. Men in Black, noted for dressing in black suits and harassing UFO contactees and researchers. These beings are basically cows tied into the AI posing as humans. They are subcontracted out by MJ12 through Wackenhut, WACKENHUT Security Service, Inc., and ACIO Division 6. Oh, here's the picture. Right there at the top. Digging in dirt. I gotta clean my fingernails. On October 9th, 1979, the Rothschild KGB faction replaced the Russian robot-toyed President Carter number 18 with a synthetic clone known as President Carter number 1. Ever since, there has been a battle going on over control of the world's clones. In time, cloning became so successful that makes me wonder, like, what's her face? Kardashian, the mom, right? Her name's slipping me right now, but she went from looking more like her, like like the age that she should be, I guess 70 something, I don't know, to then looking like she was in her 40s, and it seemingly happened overnight. I wonder if either she was drinking that stuff that they say, or if she got transferred over into a clone or something. Who knows? In time, cloning became so successful and all influential people were cloned. Presidents, congressmen, prime ministers, mayors, top Pentagon brass officials, evangelical ministers, the heads of major banks and media, and even soldiers were all replicated with astonishing perfection. Depending on the clone, usually they had no soul and no connection with a God source. They lack compassion and are prone to violence and evil. Do you know of anyone like this? Perhaps anyone who is of importance in the New World Order? I would say Bill Gates, right? The elite's final push to create a global fiefdom is doomed to failure. Despite this, they continue developing their arsenal of mind control weapons, including HAARP, HAARP, implants, fluoride, and a robotic mind control police force in the hopes that perhaps they will be successful enslaving humanity. This picture right here, and this is like sci-fi stuff. We've seen these things like, not symbiotes, but that thing that they get stuck on the back or whatever and it goes into the spine and stuff. Okay, so it says picture, I read ahead yesterday because I was like, what's he doing in here? Picture of a clone of George Bush Jr. that was recently replaced and was still undergoing programming. The object on his back is a brainwashing device. According to remote viewer James Casbolt, C-A-S-B-O-L-T, it looks like a spider connected to the flesh. From what I was able to gather, George Bush Jr. was killed by his father in March 2003 because he refused to go along with the New World Order. And that makes me think, here he is right here. And that square, that device thing right there, that's in the spine, is what he's saying. But here he is sitting in a truck, and I wonder if he drinks that or not, or if it's there for show. But it reminds me of that sci-fi TV show that had like the mechs, and they would attach these things to the people, and they'd take them over, like kind of like not a clone, but like a host or something. Anyway. Holographic examination table. The HET is a technology created by the Germans used to alter the direction of the aging of clones and or SSP participants. The following testimony is from SuperTech DSF. The whistleblower worked in the Deep Space Fleet as a ship mechanic. Deep Space Fleet is typically what government documents refer to as the Secret Space Program. SuperTech DSF recalls being in a coma on the HET for 3 weeks while weekly scans were used to regress him back to 8 years old. Then was transported back in time 30 years to Earth, where he was first taken without memories of being in the SSP. I am, and this is in quotes, I am a super tech, or at least I was one. I was born with a 163 IQ. In the first week of 3rd grade, our class was given a standard IQ test, and the new achievement test, which of course was sent in, and they then sent back the score. The IQ, they said, I had was 143, not 163, and that I scored average when I actually scored very high in my achievement test, especially in the embedded intuitive quotient. In other words, they knew I was an empath with very high troubleshooting and mechanical aptitude, and this evidently put up some flags, and I was selected by the Deep Space Fleet for induction into the fleet. In other words, I am a MILAB child. I have been reading about the definition of the word MILAB, and it seems that it has become a catch-all for children that gets used for children who are abducted to be used in a military function. I want to be clear of something that after the initial softening event, I was never purposefully abused. I will not burden you with the details that I have shared with my psychologist, but I was raped by a man that was programmed to do so by them. I will explain who them are in a minute. Needless to say, with this softening event, they successfully shredded my self-esteem. It wasn't until my 3rd wife that I had finally met the woman that I was looking for, namely someone who had the knowledge and the wisdom to see that I had been sexually abused as a child. This is a gift that I can never repay because it started me on the road to healing. Lately, I watched the Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, Good, G-O-O-D-E, interview on Project Camelot. As Corey was talking about the things he went through as a child of MILAB, I got that same old feeling of this seems really familiar. Recently, I was watching the episode of the old TV show Fringe that talked about how when the FBI agent Olivia Dunham, as a child, was a part of a secret drug trial which was trying to create super soldiers out of children by stimulating their natural abilities with drugs. That night after watching this, I was sitting on the table of my bed and I started to remember I was taken as a child and used in the SSP as a maintenance technician on a deep space star ship. I was not trained to be a super soldier. I was trained to be a super tech. And I'm going to leave it there, but I remember Courtney Love saying that in her neighborhood, the children went to this place, right? And they were given this stuff. And so they were given drugs. The stuff was also in their water and everything. And it was like, I don't know, that city block or maybe a little bit bigger. But that's why her and a lot of those, and she saw other people there too. I think like Shia LaBeouf was one or something like that. That's pretty insane. Anyway, don't go ahead and get you in a good shine till we meet again. Love you, man.